Architecture is something that has fascinated me for a very long time. I remember the days of my childhood buying Legos and, just letting my imagination run wild. Just by building small towns on my bedroom table. I remember during my teenage years, I continued playing Roblox. And that was basically after I got my first PC. And in 2012, two YouTubers known as Captain Sparkles and Tryhard Ninja inspired me to buy one of the most successful video games of all time, Minecraft, where basically I've built massive, fully functioning cities. But after traveling around New Jersey and Pennsylvania for so long, I became more and more fascinated by some of the structures, especially the abandoned structures in towns I've passed through. Video makers like Dan Bell, Ruin Road, and Bright Sun Films have inspired me to go even further and take a look inside of some of these structures. Learn their history and photograph what has become of them. My name's Kwame Wahkan, and this will be my first attempt at urban exploration. The Page homes were located at 150 Roselle Avenue in Trenton, New Jersey. It was a public housing complex built in 1954 and got its name from George W. Page, who was a city commissioner back in the 1920s. The 6 buildings, all 3 stories each, provided homes for Trenton's low-income and working-class families. 5 of the buildings contained 27 units, while the other one on the northwest corner has 24. The small building you see in the middle served as the complex's heating system. Between the late 1970s and early 1980s, the Trenton Housing Authority received a grant from the Department of Housing and Urban Development and became a candidate for the Energy Conservation Program. They installed a computer system which regulated the temperatures in each flat, and the software would automatically adjust the temperature according to the weather and time of day. This kept the Page homes warm, while also reducing the amount of fuel consumption, which resulted in the city saving about $60,000. I was unable to find much information on the complex between the years of 1990 to 2008. However, Google Maps revealed that the Trenton Housing Authority started boarding the place up in October in 2008. In August of 2009, you could see even more units boarded up. In 2011, the entire first floor was vacated and boarded up. Slowly, the Page homes were starting to lose its residents. Sometime around 2013, the last tenant left the Page homes, and the Trenton Housing Authority closed the place down for good. However, electricity to the complex was still on. Based on this 2018 video, all the lampposts were still lit. Kinda looks like a post-apocalyptic scene, considering that bushes and weeds grew through the cracks of the sidewalk, and vines climbed up the brick walls. In 2014, Herbert T. Brown, the executive director of the Trenton Housing Authority, announced that the Page homes would be torn down and replaced with 100 townhouses, a project expecting to cost $25 million. The final phase in Brown's project is to make the housing complex more energy efficient by installing solar panels on the roofs of the Donnelly homes, which is located right across the street from the Page homes. Fast forward to 2019, the electricity to the Page homes was finally shut off, and most of the vegetation was eventually removed as wrecking crews began to move in to prepare for demolition. After driving past this place for so many years, I've always wondered what the reasoning was as to why this place was abandoned and why so many people just up and left. And this was my last chance and only chance to see the Page homes for myself. Now the sounds that you hear in these videos, these are the actual sounds that I heard while traveling out here. This was back in 2018 when I first decided to film out here. Everything was completely boarded up, all the doors were completely boarded up, and like I said, the sound that you hear, it actually sounds that creepy. There's like no added effects or anything. So, it was really desolate out here. You know, if I had enough actors, or, you know, if I had decided to get the band back together, I would love to, you know, I would have loved to shoot a music video out here. I mean, the atmosphere is just absolutely perfect. Right, there's the lamppost right there. It's been completely torn off. As you can see, they started removing some of the boards from the windows, guessing that would hinder them during their the demolition process. Had to check inside the buildings. Look inside. I mean, some of these buildings look are just completely gutted and rotting from the inside. I mean, this is just absolutely post-apocalyptic. These were just a few of the photos that I was able to get from outside. They had a few benches out there for me to stand on. I would have walked through the door, however, it seemed to be a little unsafe to do that, and I'll explain that later on in the video. Um, but yeah, I just tried to get as much footage as I could from the outside as possible, and believe me, these photos are pretty juicy. Now, this is the first building that I decided to explore. This is the building that has the 24 units on the northwest side that I mentioned earlier in the video. And the sound that you're hearing in this is my respirator. Now, when exploring, you know, old buildings, especially buildings as I wasn't really sure at the time when I explored this how old this building was, but whenever you explore a really old building, you always have to make sure that you bring a respirator because you never know what might be flying through the air. But yeah, you don't want to be breathing in a building that's been dust from a building that's been sitting dormant for X amount of years. It's just not healthy. As you can see, you know, the paint is starting to fall off the walls. Ceiling tiles have already fallen down. Like I said, there's like chips, like basically all over the floor. This unit was pretty much empty, so I decided not to stay in it too long. I just wanted to explore the rest of the units in this sector, see what they might have looked like when people lived in them. This unit was also empty, but then again, you know, all the bottom floors were vacated the first, so I decided to just move on upstairs. Now these two apartments right here, they seem to be the last ones to have been, or among one of the many last ones to have been vacated. As you can see, a lot of the residents left their stuff behind. You got a pile of VHS tapes on the floor. You got articles of clothing all around the kitchen. You have bottles of, whiskey and wine or Hennessy. I don't really know what liquor is. I'm not too knowledgeable when it comes to hard liquor. I'm a beer guy, but I didn't really stay too long on this floor. I just decided to move on upstairs. It's hair weave. Now, I didn't even bother trying to enter these apartments. I mean, just looking at the floor, I saw that it was starting to chip away. This was right above the other apartment that I was exploring. So I'm like, alright, well, it looks like I could basically just fall through the floor, and I'm not really going to risk that. Plus, I didn't have a drone with a camera, so and not only that, but said I don't want to put myself at risk going through these buildings. It's already, dangerous enough exploring these as it is. And I found a Destiny's Child album, so whoever lived here had a very good taste in music. I'm not too big of a fan on Beyonce, but, you know, there's no way in hell you would ever see me leave behind a Destiny's Child album. Kinda felt sorry for it, Ah, VHS. Most people don't even know what these things are anymore. This one's coming to America. It's possibly one of the greatest comedy films ever made. Eddie Murphy, Arsenio Hall, James Earl Jones, friggin' Samuel L. Jackson was in it. Ah, man, this movie brings back so many good memories. And there's the bust of the king, Dr. Martin Luther King. Can't believe anyone would leave a bust of the king behind, but I'm guessing they were all kind of in a hurry to leave. Now, judging by this layout of the apartment, it seems to be like a four-person family home. The mother, the father, they have an older son, and I'm guessing a younger daughter. Because you see the football gear in one room, and then you see children's clothes in the other room. So, yeah, possibly a four family house. The bathroom was like a total wreck. And there's a shot of their medicine chest. And there's that's the bathtub. As you can see, you know, debris from the building is falling into the tub. Basically debris all over this bathroom. And right there on the floor are some clothes. And this is the room that had all of the old video games, movies. You see Norbit in here. I saw Epic Movie. I saw, you know, a couple Intellivision and Sega Genesis games in here. And I also found this cool ruler. It has pictures of all the famous African Americans on it. I had one of these when I was a lad. I think I lost it or misplaced it. But either way, you know, when you explore abandoned buildings like these, you never want to take anything home with you, you know. Just do it out of respect for, you know, the next urban explorer, so they'll have something to look forward to. Even though I knew this place was going to be demolished. It's just common courtesy for an urban explorer. And these are just some of the still frames that I took while exploring. First one is the stairwell. This one right here is the living room of one of the downstairs apartments. And this is another shot of the living room. This is right the room right on the outside of the building. So you can see by the window they took the board off, so that's why you see a little bit of light glistening in on the room. And this is just a picture of the Destiny's Child album that I found on the floor. Not sure how many of my followers are Destiny's Child fans, but if anyone was interested in buying their album, it's still on sale. And they always had high-selling albums. These right here are the original fences that had, you know, basically blockaded the housing complex away from the main road. I see they've removed them completely, and this entire place was barricaded by a chain link construction fence. Some parts of the fence had barbed wire on it, some didn't. I basically went in the main way. I'm guessing the housing authority plans on salvaging these or either scrapping them. I mean, there is a scrapyard literally like a couple blocks down from this housing complex. So, I don't know, like I said, I don't know if they plan on scrapping these or if they plan on salvaging them and using them for their next housing project. But, who knows? And these are just shots of the back end of behind one of these. You see the trees are like completely barren. Like I said, these are some of the homes that were still boarded up. The ones that I decided not to enter in. And as you can see, like I said, this is extremely, extremely creepy. Now this photo really scared the shit out of me. Like, I honestly was expecting to be the only person inside this complex, but apparently some deer were able to get in, and when I flashed my camera and saw the eyes, I honestly was about to gun it up out of there. And then I saw they was just deer, and they all ended up running away, so that was basically it. Startled by a group of harmless little deer. Okay, so this is the second building that I had decided to explore. As you can see, you got the no trespassing sign up there. And even if that sign wasn't there, there's no way in hell that I would ever travel into one of these basements. I mean, it's just completely unsafe, and it looks like from the outside, and you can tell by the inside too. I mean, this place, all these apartments are rotting. I take back what I said earlier. Rotting is an understatement. This place was like exploring the remains of a dead corpse. And I'll get to more on that later. want to apologize about the shaky video here. It's a little itchy inside of the hazmat suit, so fuck. I forgot to explain to you guys why I'm even wearing a hazmat suit in the first place. I'm gonna have to stop the video right here and do a quick explanation as to why I'm in this bloody thing. And to be honest, if you do plan on, doing urban exploration, I recommend you do get a disposable hazmat suit. So I'm just gonna quit rambling and explain. Time for a history lesson. Before the 1990s, many buildings across North America, Europe, and other parts of the world used a material known as asbestos during construction. Asbestos is a group of naturally occurring minerals made of thin, yet tightly packed fibers. The mineral can be found on all 7 continents. Since ancient times, it's been used as a building material due to its ability to resist heat, resist fire, and insulate electricity. There are 6 different types of asbestos: CHRYSOTILE, which is the most commonly used, amosite, anthophyllite, tremolite, actinolite, and chrysotile, which is by far the deadliest type of asbestos on the planet. During the Industrial Revolution, boilers, engines, and turbines were all insulated with asbestos. In the 1930s, more construction companies started using it for its durability. Houses, schools, and businesses all had asbestos insulation. This shit was practically used everywhere until the mid-1970s. When people began falling ill and developing severe health symptoms, construction workers from around the world began pressuring officials to ban the mining and production of asbestos materials. In 1977, the Environmental Protection Agency passed legislation to limit the amount of exposure to asbestos. In 2005, the UK, New Zealand, and Australia were among several countries that banned the use of asbestos. However, the United States, like always, hasn't quite caught up with the rest of the world. Although asbestos isn't used anymore in American buildings, there hasn't been an official ban in the United States. In July of 2005, businessman and real estate developer Donald J. Trump testified in defense of asbestos before Congress. This is what he had to say.
In New York City, we have a lot of asbestos buildings, and there's a whole debate about asbestos. I mean, a lot of people could say that if the World Trade Center had asbestos, it wouldn't have burned down, it wouldn't have melted, okay? A lot of people think asbestos, a lot of people in my industry think asbestos is the greatest fireproofing material ever made. And I can tell you that I've seen tests of asbestos versus the new material that's being used, and it's not even it's like a heavyweight champion against a lightweight from high school. But in your great wisdom, you folks have said asbestos is a horrible material, so it has to be removed.
In 2016, Donald Trump was elected 45th President of the United States. And in 2018, EPA Chief Scott Pruitt agreed to loosen regulations on asbestos. Pruitt eventually resigned following a corruption scandal, and was replaced by Andrew Wheeler, who, like Pruitt, agreed to deregulate asbestos. The American auto industry is possibly one of the largest consumers of asbestos in the United States, which means that many people who work in these industries have a high chance of developing cancer. Approximately 15,000 people die each year from asbestos exposure. So I hope that explains the whole suit thing. This flat was completely empty, so I just looked around, filmed, and went on to the next one. Those stairs did not look safe. I think out of all of the buildings that I've explored, this is the only one where I've only explored the first floor. I didn't bother exploring the second or third because I had no access up there. That literally scared the shit out of me. Both the master bedroom and the spare bedroom were empty. So I guess you can say out of all three of these apartments, all of them were just completely empty. Decided to head back in the kitchen because I saw a few interesting things on the floor. I'm guessing these guys must have lived in this house. Here's another picture right here of someone else. And here's another friendly photo. And here's a birthday cake for Tanya, Kelly, and Emily. So I'm guessing these flats weren't as empty as I thought they would be. See some, like I said, these photos can tell a lot about, the people that used to live here, tell their story. Seemed to be a nice family, I'm guessing. Now, in stepping into this flat over here, I can't really tell if that's black paint or if it's ash and soot or if something was burning in here. But, it was completely empty in here, so I didn't really stay in here long. And here's another shot of those stairs. As you can see, they are completely rotting. I mean, one step on those things and I would just fall right through. So, I mean, if it's been closed in 2013 and it's now 2019, I'm really surprised at how much those stairs would just, crumble away so easily. Now, remember when I said I felt like this building was like exploring the remains of a dead corpse? Well, what you see on the ground right there is the remains of a dead squirrel. I don't know how long it's been there, but the bone, literally there's no flesh, just fur and bones. So it must have died in here a very long time ago. So I decided to take a few exterior shots of the building just to show you what they looked like, if you were to actually walk around this place. Now, this building that you see with the broken windows, I didn't even have access to, so I'm guessing the demolition crew really did not want anyone getting inside this building. And for good reason, too, so I wasn't even going to attempt. Now, thankfully, I'm 6 feet tall, so all I had to do was, in order to get inside shots, I just stood on top of these benches that you see on the outside and just raised my hand up in the air with the camera and just snap away. So that's how I was able to get those interior shots that you see from earlier in the video. This building was completely sealed. Here's a shot of the fire escapes. So I didn't have rooftop access to any of these buildings as well. Now, I know there were hatches, but they were all locked up with padlocks. And plus, even if they weren't, there's no way that I'm going to, go on the top of these buildings. If I fall off, then oh no, that would be terrible. I wouldn't even be here to edit this video or even show you what these buildings look like if I had access to the roof. So that's a big no-no for me. And this is the exterior shot of the northeast building. Here you have a wire box that a bird or some other animal was using as a nest. And this is the final exterior shot. As you can see, nature completely took over this place. Alright, now this is one of the buildings on the southeast corner that I explored. Once again, this building was kind of empty, so There's not much to show you here. Now this apartment is filled with blood gang graffiti. You can see like GKB on the wall. Right above the living room window, blood is spelled wrong. You can see Bounty Hunter Bloods on this wall over here and GKB on that wall over there. Trent has a very sad and dark history with the Bloods gangs. I remember in 2005 I was in 5th grade when the Bloods made front page of the Trentonian newspaper. A young man named Rasheen Glover and his 2 daughters, Jayasia and Janaya, they were all murdered in an arson attack committed by the Bloods. And I remember in 2006 a gang war broke out between the Crips and several other factions of the Bloods over drug territory. And there was literally so much gang violence that year that the Trentonian printed a cover with the New Jersey license plate calling it the Gangster State. In fact, there was an incident that happened in 2018 of last year during Trenton's Art All Night Festival. Back when they first announced this festival, you used to be able to go there and celebrate, talk to artists all night, and it was open to the public for 24 hours. Now, this year they had to change it. They cut it off after a certain time because a mass shooting had happened here last year, and one of the gunmen that was involved in the mass shooting was a Bloods gang member. Now, thankfully, the only person that was killed was the gunman himself. There were 17 people that were injured. A lot of people were, hospitalized. Some got caught in the stampede. It was a terrible situation. I couldn't open this door because there was something back there holding it shut. So. That's the ladder that leads up to the roof. However, it was padlocked. But I wasn't planning on going up there anyway. Now this is another door that I couldn't open. I was able to get it open like just a crack, but based on when I peered my head inside there, I didn't really see much of anything, so I figured, alright, well, I'm done exploring here. Now this sequence of video is rather short because one of the cameras that I was using was starting to run out of space on the SD card, so I had to basically switch to my second camera. Seems like every kitchen in this entire complex is a mess. This has got to be by far one of the messiest I've seen. You got flour on the floor, the stove is all bent out of shape. So by this time my SD card was completely full, so I had to go back downstairs, go outside, and get the second camera. Now you're going to notice some quality boosting because I accidentally shot it in 1080p instead of my standard 720. But what the heck, you know, enjoy it. You're going to have to excuse the hand on the camera for a moment. I had to adjust the flashlight that was on my helmet. And me being a blockhead, I didn't realize I walked in the same flat twice. I honestly didn't know what the hell this thing was. I think out of all the flats in this entire complex, this one seemed to have the most stuff left behind. This one flat you see right here had the most stuff out of all the flats that I've been into. There's stuff all over the floor in the living room, also stuff in the kitchen, and even more stuff in the bedroom. Ah yes, books. Some of these books actually look pretty interesting to read. However, like I said, I'm not taking anything out of these apartments. I might just, take some still frames of these and then look the names up and probably order them off of Amazon or something. The Darkest Child. From what I heard, this was actually a really, really good book. I don't know why anyone would leave this behind, but I will say I will put this on my Amazon list. Takeover is also a really good book. It's a mafia type book. Everyone that knows me knows that I love mafia novels, so I will be checking this one out as well. This book received a perfect score online when I looked at it. A Long Way Gone is basically about a child growing up in Sierra Leone during the time of the Civil War. I don't know who lived in this apartment, but I will say they had a really great taste in literature. If I ever get the chance to meet them one day, I'd love to talk with them over a cup of coffee. I take back what I said earlier. This is the dirtiest kitchen that I've ever seen in all of these flats. It's Hello Kitty. She's been living in this apartment ever since it's been abandoned, and probably will still be here when the building is demolished. Feel sorry for her. So I'm guessing this is a picture of some of the lads that used to live in this flat. Looks like a family photo from, well, based on the background, looks like they were at Disney World. And this is another family photo. Like I said, these guys had a really great taste in reading. So I'm guessing this was the house of a pretty large family. I mostly see a bunch of, boys' clothes around, so I'm guessing, whoever lived here had a couple of sons. This is Nicole's room. Don't know who she is, but she's probably a really nice person. Not gonna lie, I kinda had fun exploring this flat. I mean, like I said, this flat basically told a story. It told more than all of the other flats that I've explored. That's the calendar. From what it says, the last date was December of 2011, meaning they must have left around 2012. A newspaper from 2011. As you can tell, well, I agree with what's on the front cover, but you can tell that this is 2011 because at the bottom the Giants defeated the Falcons. These are just some more snapshots I got. That's the living room. And then that's the book that I plan on ordering. Now right here we have a calendar. This is from the year 2012, which confirms that this place probably was vacated in 2012 and they just left most of the stuff that they couldn't carry behind. It's just a shot of Nicole's door, Nicole's wall. Apparently she was either a princess or a diva. If I ever get the chance of meeting her, she probably seems like a very interesting person. And this is her calendar, the 2011 calendar. This was the last flat that I decided to explore. There wasn't that much in here, but there were a few artifacts lying around. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really take my time going through most of these rooms. I mean, not only were most of these rooms empty, but I was starting to run out of film on this one as well. Like I said, I forgot that I was shooting in a higher resolution than what I usually shoot in, so it takes up more space. Not to mention that the SD card in this camera was smaller than the ones that I usually use. Look at that ceiling. Now that's a sight to see. Alright, now these are some of the last still frames that I have. Well, I should say among the last. This is from one of the apartments. You see the smoke detector just hanging right off of the ceiling. This right here, we got NBA 2K 2010 on the Xbox 360. Oh gosh, that was a good game. Here we have a calendar. This was like from either 2008 or 2009, I don't quite remember. Another great game, NBA Live 2002 on the PlayStation. Here we have some clothing that was left behind. A purse was like right in between those two suits. And right here, this one was from a different building altogether. Now, I wasn't able to get on the top floor, mostly because the stairs were literally rotting, and I was not going to risk falling through. So I just decided to take a picture of it and move on to the next building. So after exploring all the buildings that I had access to, there's only one building left, the boiler room. Fortunately, for my sake, I did not have access to this building, and regarding what I said earlier about boilers, I'm kind of glad I didn't. Let me show you. Nope, nope, nope. I can't say nope any more times. This is why, whenever you do urban exploration, you make sure you have a respirator and a hazmat suit. Cancer is one hell of a disease. That's it for the George W. Page homes. This was my first full attempt at urban exploration, so I want to apologize if this video is too short in my amateur camera work. I don't have any professional photography experience, so I just had to use what I learned from watching Dan Bell. I will admit, though, I found this place pretty creepy, but, it was interesting getting to explore the complex and see it for what it used to be. But when Trenton does finally tear down the Page homes, I just hope that these new townhouses provide enough living space for the low-income families that need them. Being that they're downsizing from 159 units to just 100, I'm assuming that the houses will probably be bigger, but until this project is complete, we'll just have to wait and see.